Hi everyone, this is Brian from HobbyQuest, and today we're going to be building the wind blade. Now, this is a 2 session long aviation project. Uh, so we're going to go over the materials that we're going to need in order to complete the project. Everybody's going to get a instructional sheet and a blueprint for the wings, which will look like this. You're going to need scissors, a pencil, sandpaper and a sanding block, a glue stick, or some white glue. Alright, now to start, we're only going to be needing the instructional part of the 2 sheets. So you can go ahead and set aside your blueprint for now. We won't need it until our 2nd session. Alright, so on our instruction sheet, we're going to see that we have a part A, which looks like this, and there's a dotted line that goes along it. We're going to go ahead and take our scissors and we're going to cut along the dotted line. Have all your students do this nice and carefully as best as they can. And once this is cut out, we're actually going to be needing our wood parts. So you can get that ready while your students are cutting. Okay. So once this is cut out, we're going to need our balsa wood sticks, which we're going to be using to fill in some of the spaces on our blueprint. And you're going to need the wind blade connector piece, which looks like this and comes inside one of these bags. Each student's going to get one of these connector pieces, and this is actually the first thing they're going to be gluing onto their blueprint. So they're going to look for A1 marked on their blueprint and take their glue stick and glue that down onto the blueprint. Make sure that you put enough glue to cover the entire thing, and make sure that the piece is stuck well onto the blueprint. We're going to try our best to match this piece up with our blueprint as best as we can, because we want all the pieces to fit into place as best as they can. So once that's attached, we're going to take our balsa wood sticks and we're going to measure these out on our blueprint in order to attach them with our glue sticks. So you can go ahead and just place it on the blueprint, take your pencil and just mark off the end so that you know where to cut it with some scissors. Now sometimes some of the sticks can be a little hard to cut. If that's the case, they can just cut it a little bit as best as they can and just break it off. And if they do so, it may leave a jagged end. And we can go ahead and smooth that out by sanding it on some sandpaper. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and do this for each of the pieces that are marked A2 through A7. Make sure to tell your students to take their time at this part, because we don't want to leave any large gaps between the wooden sticks. So we want to do this as best as we can, match it up as much as possible so that everything fits nice and snug. Okay. Another important thing is to make sure that the students actually follow the number order, because we want to make sure that when we put the 2 smaller pieces, A6 and A7, into place, that they fit into place. aren't too big, otherwise the sticks won't fit in place. Okay. Now the first 4 pieces we attach will all be the same size, A2 through A5. We do the same thing for each one. Again, if it doesn't cut, you just break it off and sand it down. All right. And there we have it. Now A6 and A7 go in between the sticks, and they're quite small, so we want to take a stick and just try your best to mark off where to cut it, and go ahead and cut the piece. Before you glue it down, make sure to check that it actually fits. Sometimes it'll be a little too big. If that's the case, you can just sand down the edges until it fits. All right. Alright, so once this is done, we can actually go ahead and you can actually go ahead and call your students up or go around to their tables, and we're going to take our super glue and we're actually going to drop just one small droplet of super glue in between the junctions where all the wooden sticks meet. And you're going to do the same thing with the connector piece as well. We're going to connect, we're going to put some super glue wherever the wooden sticks meet the connector piece. And this is just going to reinforce the shape so that it stays solid once we're flying it. So let's see. We're going to take our spray and we're just going to spray down bit just to make sure that it dries relatively quickly. Now, while this is drying, we're gonna show our students what we're gonna do next. We're gonna be taking our pencil and we're gonna be poking a hole where we see A8 and A9. So that's gonna be right here near the middle of the connector piece. Take a pencil and we're just going to poke away A8. This space right here is going to be where our rubber band is going to be threaded through. Okay, we're just going to poke it away and you can just tear off whatever is left over. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a wide enough space for our rubber band. Now A9, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our pencil and we're going to poke through A9. And this is where we're going to be sliding our spruce wood sticks through. Okay? So go ahead, once that's done, hand out your spruce wood stick, and we're going to be measuring off 60 millimeters from the end and marking it. So you can do that with a ruler like this, or you can actually go ahead and use your instructional sheet and look at image 4. Just place the spruce wood stick on top of image 4 and mark off 60 millimeters from the end, like that. And we're going to go ahead and just take our spruce wood stick and slide it through the hole that we just punched in the middle of part A. just like that. Okay, just like this. And this is actually going to be the end of our first session for the project. Before you collect all these, make sure that your students have written their names on their parts. There's a space right here that says built by blank, and they can write their names right there. This way you'll know who to give it back to during session 2. So for session 2, we're actually going to be working on the other sheet, which is the blueprint for the wings. So go ahead and hand out whatever the students have done during session 1. We won't need the sheet anymore. We're going to be using the blueprint during session 2. So for session 2, we're going to need most of the same materials. Hand all that out again, and we're going to cut out the wings, parts C and D, along the dotted lines. Once both of them are cut out, you're going to hand out the balsa wood sticks again. And each student should get 2 long sticks. So once again, we're going to take our balsa wood sticks and we're going to measure out how much we need. We're going to mark it, and we're going to cut the balsa wood stick so that it fits onto our wing, just like during the first session. Do the same thing for the other wing so that we have both completed. Now, some of your students might finish a little faster than the others, and if that's the case, then they can go ahead and start decorating their wings using some markers. There's also a space on each wing for them to write their names so that they know it's theirs. All right. Now, once everyone has completed both of these wings, you're going to want to start calling them up to your desk one by one, or just going around to each table one by one, because you're going to need to use some super glue to attach the wings to the part that we worked on during session 1. So if you look at the part A, which we worked on during session 1, you'll see that there are two spaces where we're going to slide our wings onto. So we're going to just slot that in place like that. Start with one wing. Take your super glue and just put a drop of super glue in place to hold the wing to the connector piece, and the other end is going to be super glued onto the balsa wood stick. So just put another drop there, take your spray and just spray it to make it dry, just like that. Do the same for the other side. Slot the wing into place onto the connector piece, and use some super glue to hold in place. You just need a drop, it doesn't need to be too much. All right. And once that's done, everyone should have something like this. Now it's not ready yet because the paper is still loose. Okay, so you're going to want your students to once again take their glue stick, and you're going to want them to apply some glue onto the edge of the stick, and then attach their wing so that's now stuck to the balsa wood. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. And they should have something like this. Now you can set this aside and allow it to dry a bit. And we're going to move on to the rotor. So for the rotor, what you're going to need is one of these and one of these long rubber bands. So everyone should have this. They can take their pieces out of the bag to make sure that they have everything they need. Now, inside your bag, you might sometimes get one of these rubber bands. We're not going to use this. We're going to use the one that looks like this and comes separate from the bag. All right, so inside their bag, they should get one of these spinners with places for the rotor blades to attach to, and a hook. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the rotor to the spinner, and we're just going to slide it into place and make sure to push the peg so that it snaps in. It should fit in as far as it can, because that's going to make sure that the blades do not come loose and fly out as it's spinning. Once this is done, we're going to take our model and we're going to be attaching the rotor blades to the top in this orientation like this. Now, when we're attaching this, you're going to see that there's a metal hook. That hook has to be on the same side as the hole that we punched through during session 1. This is where the rubber band is going to be threaded through. So make sure that that hook is on the same side, and the same goes for the hook that goes on the other side. We're going to attach the other hook to the other end of the spruce stick, and it's going to look something like this. Once that's done, we're just going to have to take our rubber band and tie off the end with a knot, just like this. We're going to take the knotted end and we're going to just hook it onto that hook that's on the bottom of our model, and then we're going to thread the rubber band through the opening that we poked through through part A, and then take the rubber band, loop it through the metal hook, just like this. And once again, we're going to thread it back through and attach the loose end onto the hook. And now everything should be in place. It should look like this. And our wind blade is done. So, before you do anything, make sure your students clean up as always. And then take your students out to an open space, preferably someplace with a high ceiling. And then demonstrate how to fly this. So to fly this, you're going to need to start by winding up your rotor, spin the rotor clockwise like this. So if you were to look at it head on, you You should spin it like the hands of a clock. And while it's spinning, you're going to see that the rubber band is going to start to form coils. We want the entire rubber band to be coiled up. You don't want to overdo it, otherwise the rubber band may snap, but just enough to fill it about halfway, and that should be good. Once that's all done, have the students hold the bottom of their model and hold on to the rotor blade like this. Now we're gonna start by letting go of the rotor blade, let it spin for a few seconds, and then let go of the bottom, and it should fly. All right, just like this. And it should fly off. All right. Well, I hope that this was informative for you, and I hope you and your students have a great quest.